The Florida Panthers won more than just a road game on Monday night in Detroit. On today's edition of the show, the Florida Panthers winning put them in great position in the playoff hunt, and some personal records on the team. And a few Florida Panthers are away from certain milestones. We'll be discussing that next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast.
Your Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
And welcome into this Tuesday, March 21st edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We're your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez, and you can follow me on Twitter at MondoMan12. Follow the show account on Twitter at LO_FLA Panthers. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel and whichever podcast app you listen to, and send in your screenshot of your YouTube subscription to me at LO_FLA Panthers, or email it to me at LockedOnFLAPanthers@gmail.com, and your 5-star rating on whichever podcast app you listen to the show for your chance to win 2 free tickets to the Florida Panthers versus Toronto Maple Leafs game on April 10th. Best of luck, everybody. And honestly, this is a challenge for some of you. Actually, send it in. For real. Because why wouldn't you want to watch this team right now? Because this team is buzzing right now. And my goodness, when it comes to, I'm just going to go into kind of my approach prior to tonight's game. I was a little nervous with the Florida Panthers going on the road, and wondering, is the home success that they had going to manifest on the road? And the Panthers, they played from behind multiple times at home, but in game number 1 of this quick 2-game road trip, never fell behind whatsoever. And it was from the start of getting early chances. Gus Forsling off the post, Anthony Duclair with a one-timer that missed the net too. They were getting their rush chances, and Gus Forsling being so quick to get in transition to stop an opportunity on Sergei Bobrovsky on a beautiful back check. And I was thinking, is this going to be a game of missed opportunities for the Panthers? Because we saw it so much in the beginning of the season, but no, it didn't. It definitely didn't happen. I mean, the Panthers forechecking well in the Red Wing zone, pinning them deep, and it helps when Sam Bennett intercepted a pass and gets it to Tkachuk for the first goal of the game. Tkachuk, 33rd of the season, gets another 3-point night for Tkachuk. Now 31 multi-point gains for Chucky, and 6 points away from 100. Only the second Panther to do it. And Sam Bennett, man, what a run that he's on too, along with Reinhart as well. And then Matthew Tkachuk from behind the net. The stat of passes from behind the net per game, it's 4.5, and it's one more than the next most in Bo Horvat and Kirill Kaprizov. Credit to Bally Sports Florida on finding that stat. And then from behind the net, set up Verhaeghe from the high slot, and then Sam Bennett with a beautiful screen up in front to make it 2-0. 12 minutes in, the Detroit Red Wings challenge it, unsuccessful. Even though the Florida Panthers gave up a shorthanded chance, but with the power play ending, it ended up not being a shorty chance. But still, the Panthers were challenged at times, and even though they never let up, never let go of their lead, they still were challenged at times. But still, they were sticking to their game. They were dominating the offensive zone time, almost more than 2/3 of the time for the Florida Panthers. And as far as the stat of Tkachuk with passes from behind the net, it's Chris Kreider that's the second best, not Bo Horvat. Chris Kreider and Kirill Kaprizov. I read that stat incorrectly, but Tkachuk 13 points in his last 5 games. Excuse me, 14. And just averaging almost about 2 points a game for the Panthers in this run. And the second line was just buzzing. Coming out of the second period, there was almost a third goal early on as Sam Bennett tried batting it in, but just misses the net. Didn't get all of it, all the barrel on it. But the Florida Panthers were also taking advantage of the Detroit Red Wings and some untimely line changes as they turned it over in the neutral zone, and then Florida Panthers were going on rushes and forcing them to the perimeter, and there was a little bit of a run in the second period where the Detroit Red Wings were dominating the possession, but nothing that told us that the Panthers were going to blow this lead. And Sasha Barkov, that top line, keeping Dylan Larkin for the most part at bay as well. You think about what Sasha Barkov and his line did in their Saturday game against New Jersey Devils, limiting Jack Hughes, and then doing it again on Dylan Larkin. Yeah, Dylan Larkin scored a goal, the second goal, on a sharp angle shot on Bobrovsky, but still, most of the game, Dylan Larkin was a non-factor, and that's thanks to that top line in Sasha Barkov. And I also think about a few moments that I wonder, is this the part where you think the game was won and lost? And it wasn't the Sam Reinhart pass to Gus Forsling that Gus Forsling rocketed to make it 3-1. I think the part which on that Gus Forsling goal, Sasha Barkov became the all-time point leader with 614 points, passing Jonathan Huberdeau, which is why I'm wearing the reverse retro jersey on today's edition of the show, if you're watching this on the YouTube channel. But you think about the turning point of the game. I think it was really in the third period where Radko Gudas had a trip, and Villano comes there with a rough after, and the lack of composure on the Detroit Red Wings. That was an opportunity for when the Panthers were up 3-1, and for the Detroit Red Wings to cut it to 3-2. Like I said, Dylan Larkin cut it to 1 a little bit later, but that was an opportunity for the Detroit Red Wings to go up on the power play, and then it's 4-on-4 hockey instead because of a lack of composure for the Detroit Red Wings. And it's crazy, some individual moments too. Is Sergei Bobrovsky, even though he wasn't busy, he at times he was just locked in right there in that crease. And Etulis Theranen as well. There was a time where he was keeping the puck in the Panthers zone while he was on his tush and continuing to battle to keep it in. And even though the goal was on a delay penalty by Dylan Larkin, which I believe it was going to be a trip on Aaron Ekblad, the Detroit Red Wings basically got their goals via special teams without actually going on special teams. The delayed penalty and the shorthanded chance with the time running out just before the Panthers power play ended. So listen, it doesn't count on the stat sheet, but we'll take it. The Panthers did lose Sam Bennett in the middle of the game, and there was a little bit of scare thinking that Radko Gudas was going to be gone for this game, as him and Adam Ernie collided and then looked to have landed on his shoulder. And I was just like, oh no, this looks bad. But Gudas came back on the ice. There's a little bit of line changes with the lines, putting Etulis Theranen on the second line back at center, Duclair with the Stahl line as well. And the fourth goal of the game, that was just the dagger for the Panthers, as Stahl with the steal, and then him and Anthony Duclair lead a 2-0 to make it 4-2, just basically ending this game, ending any chance for the Detroit Red Wings to make a comeback. And there was just one moment that they couldn't capitalize right before that fourth goal, as Dominic Kubalik was right in front of the net, and there was a centering feed and just couldn't connect to his tape. And I thought that was a moment where the Panthers were also bailed out, and the broadcast discussed weird circumstance for that Duke and Stahl 2-0, and we didn't even get to mention about the whole Sam Reinhart staying on line 1 and Duclair staying on line 3. Listen, when Duclair when Duclair coming back from an injury, you want to get him his confidence by facing up against bottom six guys coming off an injury like that. So I think this is in fact the right decision for Paul Maurice and company. And then just the Florida Panthers, Dylan Larkin was irate in that last on his penalty 17-18 into the third period, and just keeping him at bay. And then that was just the story of the Detroit Red Wings night as the Panthers were containing him, as he had a hold on Mahura near the boards, and then Carter Verhaeghe converts on the power play, his second goal of the night, 36 on the season. And just the Florida Panthers, man, a win, a road win where it was necessary, and you wondered how this team was going to come out, but they didn't let up as far as Monday night's game. In segment number 2, we're going to discuss how this win is more than just the Florida Panthers winning on Monday night in Detroit, how this means so much more to the team, to individual players, as far as records and milestones that players are getting towards in the season. But first, we're going to tell you all about FanDuel Sportsbook. And the tournament is heating up, and now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line, point scores, to three-strain. Plus, FanDuel lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same-game parlay. So don't miss your chance to get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Segment number 2 here on this Tuesday, March 21st edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, where the Florida Panthers are coming off a 5-2 win against the Detroit Red Wings. And more than just a win, the Florida Panthers are in a playoff spot, ladies and gentlemen. And I was dual casting both games, the Florida Panthers and the Sens Penguins game. And man, when you think about moments when certain timely goals happen in each of the games, if you happen to dual cast it, the Florida Panthers game went final, and the Senators go up 2-1 just as it goes final with 2 minutes left. But before that, the Pittsburgh Penguins tied at 1. But the Senators facing 48 shots on goal. They've been dealing with injuries consistently over with their goaltending. Of course, Anton Forsberg, 2 torn MCLs, but Dylan Ferguson, his first NHL start, gets a win and faces so many shots, and the Ottawa Senators scoring with Thomas Chabot and Drake Batherson on the power play, and just helping the Panthers. But let's just go back to what this means. It's the Florida Panthers are now in a playoff spot. We knew they controlled their destiny, and we thought it was unlikely that the Pittsburgh Penguins were going to fall from grace like they have in the past few weeks. But man, look at the Florida Panthers. They've just continued to, with the whole, if you continue to win, everything will take care of itself. And man, has it taken care of itself. And look at just a few stats from tonight. Top line, a Corsi for of 75%, 9 shot attempts to 3, and goal differential of +1. Second line, 13 shot attempts to 9 at 5-on-5, 2 goals to none. Just those two lines were just setting the pure example. 6-0-1 in the last 7. 9 straight wins over the Detroit Red Wings. And here's a stat. If you happen to be a Christian, 7-1 since the start of Lent. So the Florida Panthers gave up on losing games consistently for Lent, and I can get behind that, honestly. But Carter Verhaeghe, 4 goals away from 40 goals. Matthew Tkachuk, 31 multi-point games. I know we mentioned that earlier, but he's going to be the second Florida Panthers player to hit 100. And that's happening in back-to-back seasons. And next season will be the Florida Panthers' 30th anniversary. And the best time to be a fan has been these last 4 years for this team, outside of 1996. But you think about Matthew Tkachuk, third in points since January 1st, behind Connor McDavid, behind Nathan McKinnon. I guess Matthew Tkachuk just has to have a Muck MC before his name. Muck Tkachuk, I don't know. I'm just BSing as far as that. But it's crazy. Matthew Tkachuk, just the run that he's been on. I mean, we spoke about Barkov, just the 10 years that he's been with this organization, to getting his first goal against the Dallas Stars, to Jaromir Jagr coming in and helping him with his confidence and getting a playoff series under his belt despite losing in 2016 to New York. Yeah, they plateaued under Bob Bugner, but then ever since Q came around, and even though he's not here anymore, there was a bit of a shift with this team. Of course, bringing in Panthers GM Bill Zito was a little bit of that shift too, and there was even more of that shift with Matthew Tkachuk coming into the mix with this team as well. And just what a ride for this team. And Paul Maurice spoke about after the game how about Barkov doesn't care about who he plays with. He's the most humble person he's ever met, and that he's made Paul Maurice a nicer person. And what a wonderful interview also with Katie Engelson, with Sasha Barkov after the game, getting his 614th point and talking about how he's grown up as a 17-year-old kid coming to the U.S. for the first time from Finland, getting drafted by this team second overall in the 2013 draft, and now he's the all-time points leader for this team as well. It's more than just a win. Bobrovsky, and he entered the night 23-6-1 with a 1.87 GAA and a 937 save percentage against the Detroit Red Wings in his career. And it can and you can add another dub on Sergei Bobrovsky's list on the Detroit Red Wings. And Sergei Bobrovsky is on a big stretch right now. And man, I don't know if he starts tomorrow. I don't know, but he wasn't busy. He wasn't that busy, which makes it more conflicting on whether the decision should be to start him tomorrow. A little bit of an update for the Florida Panthers on Monday night. There was no update on Sam Bennett. The Paul Maurice did say that he is going to be reevaluated tomorrow but got left in the third period. And despite all that, the juggling for the Panthers, it still manifested into a goal with Duke and Eric Stahl. And Eric Stahl, got to give him his roses too, as his first point didn't come till December. And now he's been solidifying his place on that fourth line. Nobody has been complaining about Eric Stahl lately. Nobody has been complaining about Barkov being quiet, or Tkachuk, even though he had a 2-game stretch with not as much production. Nobody, and dare I say, nobody is calling out Paul Maurice. That is the most noted thing. Winning cures. It truly does. And with the Panthers, let's just talk about the standings real quick. And I remember there was a point in time in November, December where I was just say, don't be standings watching, and just win your games. And even though the Panthers were not doing so, standings watching really came about in January for me personally, as far as doing it consistently. But and you think about with how deflated we felt after the Panthers lost to Buffalo, but this team never quit. And also, let's give credit to Bill Zito. At the trade deadline, even people like myself were saying the Panthers should sell. This is not going to be a team that will go on a run. And I had my doubts that they would. That was March 3rd when the trade deadline happened. We're at March 21st now. 18 days later, Bill Zito was right. Trading Agudas for a second or a fourth would have sent the wrong message, as in throwing in the white towel for the season. I mean, you don't have a first-round pick. So Did selling really make sense if we're looking back at it? I know hindsight is 2020, but there's pride on the line after winning the President's Trophy, and then you're not and thinking you're not gonna at least try to go for something, go for the playoffs after winning the President's Trophy, and then the lack of assets. It was the right decision for the Florida Panthers to stand pat on deadline day, and the wins have come for this team, and it's they're in the second wild card spot and have a better points percentage than the Islanders right now, just by 0.001 right now, with a game in hand, and they could still get to the first wild card spot after tomorrow night against the Philadelphia Flyers, which it's a good opportunity for us to transition over to the third and final segment, where we'll have to turn the page on the night for the Florida Panthers in this big road win over the Detroit Red Wings. But first, we're going to tell you all about Built Bar. And are you looking for a delicious treat but don't want all the fat and calories? Then you got to try Built Bar. What makes Built Bar so good? Well, for starters, they're covering 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. And they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and coconut almond. I'm not sure how Built does it, but these taste like a candy bar while maintaining amazing macros. And what's even better is that they are healthy. Only 130 calories and 4 grams of sugar with a whopping 17 grams of protein. And now you don't need to wait around to get a box. For years, we've been talking about ordering your Built Bars at Built.com. Now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right. Head to the nearest Walmart, walk to the pharmacy section, and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, and coconut puffs. If you're close to Sam's Club, you could grab a 13-bar box of our hit flavors, brownie, batter, and churro. You can thank me later. Third and final segment here on this Tuesday, March 21st edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, as the Florida Panthers are coming off a 5-2 win over the Detroit Red Wings, a regulation win, mind you. So, if the Florida Panthers end up tying against the Pittsburgh Penguins, guess who gets the tiebreaker? The Florida Panthers, baby. And, man, still hard to believe that they got to where they've gotten to. But the job's not done. There's still 12 games left. Let's not forget that. And let's ask the question, should Sergei Bobrovsky start tomorrow against the Philadelphia Flyers, or should it be Alex Lyon? Paul Maurice said that he'll get Alex Lyon in at least 2 of the next 13. And 2 of the next 13, I mean, before the game against the Detroit Red Wings even started. And just looking ahead, if it's not in the back-to-back, I'm trying to look at some games that there is a possibility that he starts if you're talking about 2. I could see next Thursday against Montreal. If it's not tomorrow, big if. I could see Montreal and Columbus. But at the same time, those are back-to-back games. What if Lyon starts and you drop one against Montreal and Bobrovsky's starting how many games before that Montreal game? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know if that's a good situation to be in. I know the Florida Panthers have owned Montreal, so we're playing hypotheticals here, and then the second game would be against the worst team in the NHL. And we're talking about if it's not the game against the Flyers. But at the same time, based on the season series, which the first 2 games were October 19th and October 27th. And this Florida Panthers team is way different than what it was then. The Philadelphia Flyers are different than what they were then. So a lot has happened since. The first one was Florida Panthers 4-3 win over the Flyers. Verhaeghe gets 2 goals. Verhaeghe has scored actually in both games against the Flyers. One of the goal scorers for the Panthers, Rudolph Balcers, is no longer with the team. And for in the second one, the Florida Panthers had a lead twice, and then the Panthers allowed 3 unanswered, to the Flyers. Zach McEwen's no longer on the team. You're looking at just the the scores of the second game. I mean, but Owen Tippett did make a beautiful stretch pass that created a goal for Joel Farabee, and Owen Tippett's on a tear. 5 goals, 5 points in his last 5 games, and actually those 5 points have come in the last 2. But in the last 5 games, he's leading the team in points, and those are coming after those 2. So just kind of gives you an idea of how the Philadelphia Flyers have been this season. I mean, a disastrous trade deadline as well. You send McEwen out, you bring Brandon Lemieux, one of the most disliked hockey players in all the NHL. There was rumors about James Van Riemsdyk getting traded to the Detroit Red Wings, and then it not happening. Wondering if they were going to trade Travis Konechny, Kevin Hayes, and then there's a season ticket event with Chuck Fletcher there, and it was a disaster where fans were booing him, and then Daniel Briere takes over as the interim GM, and then there's conflict with his son Carson Briere, who pushes a wheelchair down a flight of stairs as someone who was handicapped, who couldn't get access to their chair, who needed to be carried down in order to go to the restroom, getting carried by friends, and he's facing 3 misdemeanor charges too. So just overall, there's so much drama around the Philadelphia Flyers on and off the ice, and I feel bad for Carter Hart. I like Carter Hart as a goaltender. I think he's really good. I mean, you think about how they played in that 2020 season, then after that just went to crap for the Philadelphia Flyers. But yeah, on and off the ice, even with their new interim GM, with Daniel Briere's son Carson facing 3 misdemeanor charges for that. And it's just awful. And I don't know if Daniel Briere will keep the interim job based on that. But at the same time, I believe in nature versus nurture. And it's not a 100% indication of how Daniel Briere is as a parent, because he is his own person. I mean, what I say on the air, if I were to go on a swear storm, would be more of an indication of who I am, not of who my mom and dad are. So I don't know if that would be enough to say for the Philadelphia Flyers to cut to just cut their loss and say, Daniel Briere, you're not going to be our GM. But hope Carson learns a little bit of a lesson from everything. And of course, it was caught on camera. So if he knew it was caught on camera, it's like, would he have done it? But at the same time, he made an adult decision, and that was it was a very poor one, and it kind of says a little bit about his character after that. But going back to whether Bob should start or Lyon, I'm so conflicted because Bob wasn't busy much tonight. As tonight, I mean Monday. You guys are will listen to this on a Tuesday, but I think I really do think the Florida Panthers are confident in their ability to score at will and help their goalie, especially. I know it's not same with AHL games, but the confidence for Alex Lyon is there just based on this weekend going 34-35 for AHL Charlotte against the Toronto Marlies. But I can see the argument for starting Bob because you might want to ride the $10 million man. That's what you paid him for. But at the same time, I'm confident enough that the Florida Panthers can still win against the Philadelphia Flyers. And like we said in the beginning of this segment, the Florida Panthers are a different team than what they were when they faced the Flyers twice in October. So that's kind of my opinion on the goalie situation going into Tuesday night. But I haven't seen anything on whether Paul Maurice said that they were going to start one or the other. I'm gonna check Twitter real quick just to do a refresh. No, nothing. Nothing on the goalie situation tomorrow. So we'll find out tomorrow. And also one thing before we sign off here is was a cool celebration for Sasha Barkov in getting point number 614, where they gave him the silent treatment, and like it was like a good 5 seconds, and then the whole team crowded around him. And I'm glad that the Florida Panthers social media page caught that moment for Sasha Barkov, and just an incredible journey for him, and incredible for us fans. I mean, when he was drafted, I was just getting out of high school, so I'm slightly older than Barkov. So it's crazy to think that how much time has flied, as he's now been here for 10 years, and he signed for 7 more years after that. And it's just incredible. And as a fan of this team, as a person who covers them as well, it's just been a joy to watch him play hockey. And Florida Panther fans, you guys should be you guys should be honored to watch this guy every single day, night in and night out, on what he can do on both ends of the ice. I know 200-foot game is such a cliche term, which I try to avoid using, but it is just true when it comes to Aleksander Barkov and how he plays hockey. And it's just everything that he does, and winning faceoffs, back checking, a rocket of a one-timer shot, and his ability to lead a rush too. This man, he really can do it all. 7 more seasons, and he's going to beat that point record by a long shot. He could possibly get up to 1,000 points in a Florida Panthers sweater. And it's crazy to think that 1,000 points, Florida Panthers, like, really? Like, yes, Cats fans, it really could happen. And we have 7 more seasons to witness this, as Barkov will chase that. But it's still a long ways away from now for that to happen. But in the let's put it behind us. And I know the Panthers players are ready to put it behind it. They don't have much time to celebrate this win. And even talking about the playoff spot, when they were asked after the game, Carter Verhaeghe was like, "Cool, we won, but we still have much work to do." And that is a great mindset to have. So glad that the Florida Panthers, they are continuing to be focused. And of course, the winning, the 6-0-1 stretch tells us that this team is focused. We don't need them to say it. We see it as they perform on the ice every single night. On tomorrow's edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, it'll be a Winans Wednesday edition of the show, where Jacob Winans will be joining the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast to recap the Florida Panthers versus the Philadelphia Flyers game. We'll know who starts in goal, discuss the decision, and we'll recap the game, and we're hopefully a Panthers win. But in the meantime, if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey with Flip Livingstone and Steve Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. And for your second listen of the day, listen to Game NHL. Every moment, every top performance, every result. Locked On Game to Game covers every game from across the NHL with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game to Game on Locked On NHL on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. So I'm Armando Velez, signing off. And you've been listening to the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.